Bryan Danielson's body may be frail and broken, but wrestling needs him far more than he needs health or family, and that seems to be the only thing that AEW and WWE can both agree on. My partner's wet dream is to make me scream yes as often or as loudly as this man has made me. He's yet another self-proclaimed best in the world, but this time with feeling. I mean, the Wrestling Observer named their Best Wrestler in the World award after Daniel Bryan, and then gave it to Zack Sabre Jr. for 5 years. This video will go live during AEW All In 2024, an event in which Danielson is in the main event challenging for the AEW title, but that's not the only stipulation, and that's what we need to discuss today. I'd ask for predictions in the comments, but by now you can probably just tell me if you enjoyed the match instead. If Danielson doesn't win the big one, he's promised to retire. He isn't retiring. He said that his family is missing him. He isn't retiring. He's pledged to be basically an AEW lifer now, that no matter what his next steps are, it will be AEW only. But he's not retiring. He's an honourable man who would honour any pledge he has made to stop when he's required to. He's not retiring. He's open about the fact that his body is failing him. He is not going to retire. He's Daniel Bryan, and wrestling is not just in the blood, it's basically an addiction for this guy. We are all grateful for it. And here's the thing. He might be seriously hurt. He might genuinely be at risk of dying in the ring. I don't know the details there. But he can't go anywhere. He's not allowed to. Wrestling is clear. Wrestling is all in agreement. Wrestling needs Bryan Danielson more than it needs anyone else. He's the innovator. He's the inspiration. He's in many ways the creative team and disciplinary action of AEW. He gives far more than he takes. He leads AEW at times more than Tony Khan does. Without him, what competition is there? I'm sorry, Danielson family. Request denied. You see, he's not only a great wrestler, he's so much more than that. And a retirement today would be the end of a generation. Something that you literally cannot ever replace. Already a near legendary wrestling talent before he even left the indie circuit, the American Dragon was technically fired from the WWE before he arrived in the WWE. Yes, he's unique. He debuted as part of the Nexus, quite literally openly choked someone who was terrified for their life and was gone before his feet hit the ground. He was also back before his feet hit the ground, so the arguments that are constantly being made that WWE wasn't behind this guy, there are some serious questions I have about that. Despite the whole choking thing, he returned as a good guy. Because John Cena, nothing about this guy is going to make a lot of sense. This was followed by an immediate, near historic commitment to the character. Yes, I know that many people are not going to agree with that, but bear with me because I bring receipts. He was competing for World Championships almost immediately, claiming it less than a year and a half after his SummerSlam return, losing it during WrestleMania against Sheamus in a match so short it's become synonymous with the feeling of I hate this. This does not happen now, in either direction thankfully. People do not become the top champion that quickly anymore, but Daniel Bryan did, and it does show that there was a commitment to him from the Vince McMahons that simply would not be denied. There are times, and many times later, when Bryan was described as a B+ player, and not only did he prove that wrong at the time, he'd been proving it wrong well before it was even said. The commitment to the character did not end at that year's WrestleMania, despite many thinking that this was an immediate burial of Daniel Bryan. Instead, he had prolonged 30-minute-at-time segments on Raw every week with his tag team partner Kane after losing that gold, keeping himself consistently on TV and getting over. If you've ever spent 40 minutes of your life desperately trying to make two men desperately trying to make two men hug, you'll understand where I'm coming from here. He was a key figure in the debut of the Wyatt family, helping to establish a future generational talent in the form of Bray Wyatt. Not only was he doing that, but literally at the same event while he was establishing Bray Wyatt, he didn't arrive in a Royal Rumble, and fans were mutinous. People connected with this guy in a huge way, a way that it's been almost impossible to replicate since. For many reasons, the wrestling talent definitely, the push for the character, but also the sheer and understandable and relatable simplicity. This is not someone who came to the land of the giants. This is a Rey Mysterio character who turned up and was like, "Hi, I'm the little guy, I'm still a better wrestler than you." During all of this, through basically sheer magic, he got the word yes over and a hand signal to match. Because he got the word yes over, he then decided, you know what, no, and got the word no over, which subsequently got the word yes over even more. Then he switched back from no to yes, which was already over, but that got the word no over even more, which got the word yes over even more. Do you see where I'm coming from here? Because I actually don't sometimes. And Daniel Bryan, so confusing because of the utter simplicity of trying to get over the other thing and watching the crowd basically just have fun at your expense until you're the most popular man in the world. Despite Vince McMahon at the head of the company seemingly abandoning Bryan backstage, the man was undeniable. He got the title shot at SummerSlam. He got the title win at SummerSlam, however brief that was. He was the guy that they chose. Now, admittedly, it was largely John Cena making these choices. As we mentioned earlier, Cena a confusing presence when it comes to Bryan's career, but in general, it was the undeniability of Daniel Bryan being someone that you literally just could not ignore. He had to have those chances. Alongside CM Punk leaving the company in 2014, fan support behind Daniel Bryan forced the WWE to rewrite WrestleMania 30 so that less than 4 years after his debut, Bryan won a double world championship at the main event of WrestleMania. That is unheard of. That's who he is as a wrestler, a talent and a creator. Undeniable. So when he was medically forced to retire from the WWE, he didn't take it lying down. The arrival of AEW became a huge opportunity, a lighthouse beacon driving him forwards, knowing that while the WWE would not clear him, there were always options elsewhere. Interest from AEW and the knowledge that Bryan was intentionally running down his contract intending to leave, he made it very public during Talking Smack, may have even forced the WWE to clear him for active competition despite not wanting to. There was a phase when AEW forced the return of wrestlers who the WWE were not willing to bring back on their own. Edge also benefited from this, though apparently the WWE drew the line at Page. There's an argument to be made that the WWE was more than willing to risk Daniel Bryan's health and well-being rather than lose him to AEW, because AEW were willing to risk Bryan's health and well-being to make his dream of staying a wrestler come true and get one over on WWE. For someone as anti-capitalist as Daniel Bryan, he certainly benefits a lot from capitalism in these exchanges. The man's a very smart man. And yet, despite being willing to risk everything, WWE did lose him to AEW. The start of AEW's strongest period was the arrival of three names most closely associated with the WWE, which turned wrestling on its head. CM Punk, Adam Cole and Bryan Danielson arrived to All Elite Wrestling in very brief succession. This was the moment that, for one tiny second, the pendulum swung definitively away from WWE. WWE, in fact, wouldn't really recover until Vince McMahon left. AEW was on the verge of actually taking the fight to the big dog. CM Punk took major plaudits for this, rightly so. Adam Cole was heralded as WWE giving their future to AEW, and I know that happened because I'm the guy who said it. Bryan Danielson is probably the one who is least celebrated. He's also the one who's still there, still wrestling, and still actively changing AEW for the better. Since his arrival in AEW, Danielson has been the first choice and the favourite son when it comes to demanding more from Tony Khan. He's the man in the locker room with the leverage. Tony Khan, since Bryan Danielson's arrival, has now created a creative team because of the push coming from Danielson, Omega and money. That's Mercedes money, by the way. It's not just, people throwing dollars and making it rain in Daniel Bryan's direction. Though I probably would. He's a very talented man. In fact, top to bottom, the effects of Daniel Bryanson are felt. He has installed something incredibly valuable: accountability. Something that he took from WWE after he initially gave it to WWE to begin with. This is a man that holds himself to account and demands it from others around him. That's why the wrestling is so good. That's why he is known as an incredibly genuine, generous and kind man. In 2019, I met Daniel Bryan briefly in a hotel in Manchester before a WWE show. He walked through the hotel lobby and barely anyone even noticed. He's a very humble man. Later, Sasha Banks would walk through the lobby and hundreds of people, in a queue going way back out the door, screamed and cried. But the American Dragon quietly went about his business. He is humble, he is kind, and in more than just wrestling, he forces everyone around him to up their game. You are going to see that in the main event of All In against Swerve. You might love him or hate him. You might love to chant yes or no. Either way, you love him. You might think he's the best in the world or otherwise. Certainly a lot of CM Punk absolutists are absolutely going to flood these comments. I see you, keep them going. What you can't deny is his impact on wrestling globally. Whether just in that cruiserweight, heavyweight style that he's basically pioneering alongside people like Seth Rollins, or just his genuine ability to get the best out of everyone he works with. That cannot go away. That cannot retire. That, gold or not, is a champion you want leading your fledgling company into a brighter future. And if he dies in the ring doing what he loves, well, who are we to stand in the way of his dream? Daniel Bryan, the answer is no. There's plenty more coming for WTF Wrestling. Click the video on screen right now to check out my opinions on Dave Meltzer. See you soon.